You're watching Public Affairs. Berkowitz is my name, and politics is our game. And we will be doing lots of politics and public policy this evening because we have as our guest, well, we have the incumbent, Alderman Ray Suarez, the incumbent in the 31st Ward. He is also the vice mayor. We also have his challenger, Millie Santiago. We're going to start out with Millie in a show or a segment we taped on March 6th, and that'll run about 15 minutes. And then we're going to switch over to Alderman Suarez, who, as I said, is the incumbent, who's been at the 31st Ward, the alderman from that ward for the last 24 years. He's a Marine. Millie Santiago is very interesting. She's been a reporter. She's now the challenger. So don't you turn that dial. Don't you change anything, because if you do, you're going to miss a really, 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 really good show.
Get right to it. I mean, you're telling Ray Suarez that he's shaking down people. People can find that at your website. Where's that website?
It's milliesantiago.com.
milliesantiago.com. So they go there, they say, Millie's saying that your opponent, the alderman, the vice mayor, is shaking down businessmen. They want to get going in business. They need permits. They need regulation approval and so forth. He's saying you got to pay to play. You got to give campaign contributions? Is that what you're saying?
That's what the people are saying, not me.
Not you?
That's what the business people are saying.
Because I understand he says, show me the proof. And then he also follows up, I understand, maybe even said this, we're taping this on March 6th, I think, right? March 6th, a day before you taped a show for Telemundo that will air a day later. Yes. So as people see this later on in a week or two, it will have already occurred, but your show, a little debate with him on Telemundo, yes. My understanding is when you said something about the shakedowns, he said, show me the proof, and he said, my lawyers would like to see it.
Okay, well, I'd be happy.
Did he say that? My lawyers would like to see it?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And he thinks you're being rattled by that because that to him means there could be a defamation suit in the offing, and are you afraid he might, file a lawsuit accusing you of defamation?
This is something that I have been hearing from the business people for a long time. I have been visited by business people in my office who actually have come forward to share the stories. And this is something that I am not creating. I am not going after the investigation. In fact, there's a series of lawyers that have been looking into all these accusations from business owners that have been coming forward to file complaints about his supposed shaking down.
So it's all over. What you're saying
we
is...
We have affidavits signed.
Affidavits.
Affidavits
you
signed.
Say we, you mean you.
No, not we.
Millie
This group of attorneys that have been investigating all these allegations with the intention of probably going forward with a full investigation.
Are these private attorneys? Or these are
private
these
attorneys.
Government attorneys? No, it's not prosecutors.
No, private
attorneys. Are investigating, and what they're going to file a lawsuit if
they are looking into all this documentation and all.
Can they file a civil lawsuit accusing the alderman of doing this?
There is a possibility that they are going to be taking a step with the city office inspector general.
They could go to the inspector general and,
yes.
They could ask him to subpoena records.
Does
he have that?
That might be a possibility, yes.
Yeah, okay. Or they could even go to like the state's attorney of Cook County.
They could go to that too.
Alvarez.
Yes, but
She's got a public record.
I want you.
Or they could go to the U.S. attorney.
It depends on how big this is. But when you hear if quite a few number of business people complaining about the same thing, complaining about being driven out of the ward because of all this shaking down, and because sometimes
a whole lot of shaking's going on. Sometimes, do you know that phrase? A whole lot of shaking.
Well, it's considerable amount.
Considerable amount.
Considerable
so
amount.
It's a serious business. It's a serious allegation.
It's a serious allegations. Yes.
And you're saying it has a chilling effect on business because people don't come in to start new businesses if they're thinking they're going to have to pay a lot of money.
Absolutely. Yes.
Illegally. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what we've heard is that he has forced some of these businesses to contribute to his campaign. People have been giving him cash money, and this allegation is something that I have seen personally on some of these affidavits. And then when you sign an affidavit by stating that this is happening, I consider it serious.
You've seen affidavits.
I have seen affidavits. Yes.
How many affidavits have you seen?
I've seen one affidavit.
One. Mm-hmm. Can you give us the name of that person who signed it?
No, we cannot give you that name.
Why not?
But I'd be happy to share with you the documents.
You would show me the document?
I would show you the
So I can see
document.
the name myself.
Absolutely.
How
Yes.
soon can I get that?
Well, I could get it to you right after we finish this taping.
Have you taken it to Carol Marine over at Channel?
Carol Marine has been very interested in the story as
So
well.
you've talked to her about this?
Yes,
And
yes, I
what's
have.
she done? Has she looked at the
You know,
affidavit?
she has been taking her time to dig.
So essentially, you're saying, you're not saying it formally, but essentially you're telling me somewhere before April 7th, you're going to come out and endorse Chuy Garcia?
Yes,
Okay. And that's because you're saying the majority of your residents are Hispanic, and the great majority, and you think they also support Chuy. You want to
Yes.
be with your residents. Is that sound
absolutely.
right?
Yes, yes.
And they want change, and
They want
to
change.
you, Chuy represents change more than Ron.
Right.
Is that right?
Yes.
And, okay, so what do you and your residents want, and Chuy want to change? What's the most important change in the city council?
The main issues have been better schools in the 31st ward, improvement on public safety. There's a lot of gang activity. I have talked to my residents since September about the issues, and one of the main issues has been public safety. People feel imprisoned in their own homes, especially during summer when kids cannot go to the nearby parks because of being afraid of the gang activity, recruitment, and basically kids have been bullied out on the street by all these guys that are out there.
But I hear
but,
that Alderman Suarez says crime is down 27% in the 31st ward. Do
Well,
you disagree with that?
I disagree with that because that is not what I hear from my constituents. That is not what
How
I
would they
see.
know, how would they know the number?
That rate may be correct in some areas, but when you hear the residents themselves saying that they are very afraid, that they don't feel safe in their own neighborhood, it is an issue. It is a
So what are
problem
you
that we
gonna
have
do
to address.
If you were the alderman from the 31st ward, what would you do to reduce crime?
One of the things that I really want to do is to engage the community, the residents, the families, and the youth into be more proactive, because we know that the police cannot do it alone. If we hire more police officers, but we don't have a plan on where these police officers are going to be
Would you
assigned.
support hiring more police officers?
I support hiring more police officers, but with a comprehensive plan of where they are going to be assigned. Because if
you
we
want more
hire,
in the
if we hire
31st
more
ward.
police officers and they're going to be behind a desk answering phone calls, I mean, it's not
How many
effective.
police officers do you have now in the 31st ward? Do you have any idea?
I don't have that exact number of
So
the
if I
police officers
said,
that we
if somebody
have.
said you could have 200 more cops, do you think that would make a difference in the 31st
It
ward?
will make a difference if they are assigned to the right places or to a specific task.
What are the right places? What are the?
Well, where
specific places?
gangbangers are constantly
Where is that? Where is
around
that?
the parks,
What,
around
give
the
me a
parks in
street,
some specific
give me like
areas.
a block area, give me
Okay,
an idea.
Kelvin Park, Laramie, and Fullerton, there's a lot of driver
activity
shootings there, gang
Yeah.
activity there, yes.
So you'd put them out there, you'd,
We
you gotta take on
put
the
them out there
gangs,
in
you gotta
some-
take on the gangs head-on, right?
Absolutely,
You
yes,
got-
yes. But we also have to empower the community to be the eyes and ears of their own
What about
neighborhoods.
restorative justice? Because Chuy Garcia talked for a while about
Mm-hmm.
restorative justice. When it came down to like really is running his ads, he's talking about 10,000 shootings in the last 4 years. Stop. I didn't hear him
Yes.
say a word anymore about restorative justice. What about you? You believe in restorative justice?
Absolutely, I do.
What is restorative
Yes.
justice?
You know, this restorative justice is when, for example, something is going on with the police and there's no accountability of how the police have been acting outside of in the neighborhoods combating crime. You know, we have to find
So
someone
that's a
who's accountable for
That's
what's happening.
Restorative justice, what I heard Chuy say is when you bring the victim and the perp together and they sort of work out things. It sounded a little strange to me, but I actually heard Chuy say that.
Well,
Right? Do you think we should go get the guy who's like raped somebody and bring the rape victim and the rapist together and that's like restorative justice? Would you do that?
well, it depends on what the case is specifically, but
You possibly would bring the rape victim in with the rapist?
I'm not sure about that particular approach.
Yeah.
Because
So would you go with Chuy when
the
Chuy-
victim has gone through a lot already.
So when
you know,
Chuy kept advertising 10,000 shootings in the last 4 years, we got to stop that. Would you run that ad? Would you stand with Chuy on that ad? We got to do something about those 10,000 shootings.
well, one of my priorities is to fight crime.
Right.
to fight crime.
So
And
you would stand with them on
I
that?
would stand with whatever
Fewer
the plan,
shootings, right?
whatever the plan is to improve public safety.
And on education, everybody wants good schools. But if you were a city, if you were an alderman, you're in the city council, you might not know this, but I think the budget for the Chicago Public Schools is about $6 billion.
$6 billion.
It's kind of what the Chicago budget is for the Chicago government, another $6 or $7 billion. It's a different budget, though, it's awful. It's not controlled by the city council, it's controlled by the Chicago School Board.
Right.
So that $6 billion is divided among 400,000 students. And if you do the math, folks, do the math, 400,000 into $6 billion, you get $15,000. That's the average we spend per kid per year, $15,000. Are you getting your money's worth? If you're talking about kids in the 31st Ward, do you think we're spending the average $15,000 per kid per year when they're going to the Chicago Public Schools?
I think we are, but how the schools have been spending the money fairly according to their needs is another issue. That's why I am in favor of an elected school board, because that will bring transparency, accountability, and I think
that would work?
I think the parents and the community have the right to question and to know how the money has been invested, and how the distribution of a fair budget has been accomplished.
What about charter schools?
Charter schools?
Do you have charter schools
We
in
don't
your
have
ward?
any charter schools
You
in
have
my
no
ward.
charter schools in
No
the
charter
31st
schools in the 31st
It's
ward.
amazing.
Yes, it is amazing.
Would you like to have some charter
No,
schools?
and my priority is to continue supporting our local schools
We
in
call
my
this
neighborhood.
traditional neighborhood schools.
Yes.
Do you have any magnet schools?
We don't have any magnet schools, and that is one
Do
of...
you have any select enrollment schools at all?
No. That's one of
So
the
you
things that
have this great
I really
traditional
want to
neighborhood
bring, a
schools.
magnet school, a
You
dual
want a magnet
language
school.
academy, because
Yeah.
I think we deserve it. I think there's plenty of room for more improvement, and to bring different choices for the communities, for those kids that are so ready.
Is choice important?
I think it's very important, absolutely.
Can you read this book, Free to Choose?
I think it's
You ever heard of
important.
this book, Free to Choose?
No, I have not read
Milton
that book.
Rose Friedman. You know what it means, free to choose?
No.
So if you
What,
had
what,
like...
if I know what that means, of course I know what it means, free of choose.
What does it mean, free to choose?
You're free of choose for people to have different choices, especially when it comes to education.
That's
I mean,
good. Choice is good, right?
choice is good.
Because choice signifies competition. Are you in favor of competition?
I'm in favor of competition, but I'm also in favor of providing our kids the best education possible, especially when a public school in the neighborhood is as an important as the police station, as a church, as a grocery store. It is like the nucleus of one community.
Here's
you
the
know?
thing. I'm just thinking, have you ever heard the statistic? Robin Staines, you ever heard of Advanced Illinois? It's kind of a major reform education in
Yes.
Illinois.
Mhm.
Robin sort of says, takes a little interpretation, I think she would say roughly 25% of the black kids, a little bit better, but not much more for Hispanic kids, maybe 28%, read at grade level in the Chicago public schools. So, 25% read at grade level if you're black or Hispanic, and 75% don't. Would you say the Chicago public schools are getting the job done if only 1 out of every 4 kids reads at grade level?
There's a lot of room for improvement. There are a lot of schools that are doing really, really good. And you know what? I'm not here to discredit the job of the teachers. I think teachers should deserve the best respect. They have been underpaid for a long time. They have a big responsibility, and the fact of the matter is that a lot of schools have been, overcrowded. Teachers nowadays,
So you think that's the problem, overcrowded?
have, special ed kids, regular kids, bilingual students, and it's, teachers are overwhelmed with a lot of work. And you know what? We are not providing them with the necessary resources that they need. Does that mean
we should spend more than $15,000 per kid per year?
Well, I wish we'd have the money, but we don't have the money. Let's
So
be realistic.
So what's your answer then? Because you said we're not giving them the resources, what would you do?
Well, we have to look at evaluating every single school to see what their needs are, because sometimes money can be all. I think we have to do a closer look at how some of these local school councils are doing, how the evaluations have been done, and how we could better provide resources to distribute the money wisely.
Okay, so
You know.
we got to wrap it up, but I do want to close on one thought. I hear, and maybe you hear different things, I hear in the Hispanic community, the great majority of Hispanics favor charter schools because they want choice. They want the opportunity to leave if they want a failing public school, because rich people can leave, they can move. Rich people can go to a private school because they can afford it.
Right.
People who are less rich, 20, 30,000 in income, but a charter school gives them an opportunity, or even a voucher school where you could take them $15,000 and go to the school of your choice. Might be a parochial school, might be a private school.
I believe that
You don't-
parents.
Do you just, yes or no? Would you like to give those parents the choice to go to a charter school if they want, or to go to a voucher school, a private school? Take their money, be empowered. Would you like to do that, Millie Santiago?
I believe in the parents having the right to choose, absolutely.
So-
And I think,
And if it's a charter school, then so be it. Is that what you're saying?
absolutely, but you know what?
If it's a voucher school,
One
so be
thing,
it,
there
right?
are some charter schools that are not as good as people think. I believe we could
But
probably
shouldn't the
learn,
parent decide?
from a charter school that is doing good, and maybe adopt some of those good things that have been effective and put it and implement it in our own public
So
school.
we hope you like that segment with Millie Santiago. I guess she laid out the case. If you think of this in lawyers' terms, well, there are some legal issues, as you saw and heard, and we'll be talking about that some more. But I mean, laid out the case that she thinks she made for why you should vote for her, the challenger. Well, we're going to turn, as everybody would know, there are always two sides to every story. There are multiple sides. So now you're going to hear from the incumbent, Alderman Ray Suarez. Alderman Suarez, thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you for inviting me.
You admit, no, it's often hard to get incumbents. It's easy to get challengers. So we really appreciate that you're here.
Thank you.
So we'll just cut right to it, because you know there's a lot going on. We're going to talk about education, we're going to talk about crime, development, jobs, but you know the undercurrent from Millie Santiago is coming out. She says there's a whole lot of shaking going on. She says there's shakedowns. She said, and specifically, she said, but there are others, but she'll claim there's an affidavit by a guy by the name of Jack Wilkins. And we've only seen it blacked out. Doesn't have his name on it, but I've spoken with Jack. And it just came to me just in the last few hours, okay? And just briefly, and I'd say he verifies the gist of it. There was an affidavit, he says. He's not, we won't take point by point, he might change things. But the point is, you're the alderman. Do you remember this guy, Jack Wilkins? Do you remember J&W Auto Service? What do you remember about
First
that
of all,
relationship?
I remember that there was a business over there. It was a mechanic business. I remember we were getting complaints in our ward where the driveway was always full of grease and antifreeze, and residents, I guess, walked by there, and a lot of the women called and complained. Normally, I like to go out and see this, so I spoke, and I don't remember his name, to be honest with you.
You don't remember the name Jack Wilkins
No,
at all?
No, sir, I don't.
Yeah, he was there, I guess, from 90 to 2005. In that
I'm not sure
location.
exactly what they, there was a business there.
There was,
Also,
okay.
you know.
In your ward.
You mentioned.
He says at 4956 West Diversey.
Correct. You mentioned the fact.
That's 31st Ward. It was the
Correct,
31st
that's
Ward at that
31st
time.
It still is 31st Ward.
Okay.
You mentioned the fact that Millie Santiago is making accusations about shakedowns.
Right.
You know, I'll say this to you now, and I'll say this is a very desperate person who has no agenda, who has no platform, and so she's turned to doing negative campaigning. I have never, in the time I've been in Albany, has ever asked anybody they have to make any contribution to my campaign. If they want to, it's up to them, but no one is supposed to do anything in my ward.
You've never asked them to make a campaign contribution?
I might have said I had fundraised, I don't remember the conversation.
Okay, fine.
But I would
So
never
you've
tell
gone-
them they have to give me any money.
But you might have gone to Jack, the person at this J&W Auto Mechanic store, and you might have said, well, you know, people are complaining about this and that, and
If I-
grease. Did you ever, but you said you did follow up,
If
right?
I ever went to see him about a complaint, I would never bring a conversation, because that, in my opinion, is a little bit, like, very unethical.
So you wouldn't? You
I don't
would-
believe
you mean you would come back the
No,
next day and ask for a
I
fundraiser
would not come back
contribution?
the next day, no, sir, I wouldn't either.
You would never, so anybody who you're talking to about problems in your ward, he said you hassled him. Did you hassle
Well,
him? Because he told me that.
I
That's
don't-
not,
I don't-
it's not the evidence. But Jack Wilkins, in a phone call, assuming I got the right guy, he said you hassled him.
I don't believe I don't, first of all, I don't hassle anybody. All we ask is for compliance. And I can tell you that the accusations are false from her part. And I don't know, I don't remember Mr. Wilkinson, but I want to see.
Wilkins.
Wilkins, I don't remember, all I could.
Wilkins.
Talk to him because
Yeah.
I don't have anything to hide and I feel very, very comfortable. And another thing that I want to.
He's a little afraid that if he speaks up now, the city might come after him. But you've got friends in high places, don't you? You are a vice mayor.
I am the vice mayor.
You know Rahm Emanuel.
Yes, I do.
You know him well.
Yes, I do.
You could say Rahm, you know?
No, I wouldn't send it to Ram or to anybody. That's not.
Rahm
my
wouldn't
style.
send it like a dead fish to the sky or something?
No, sir. And sir, one of the things that I pride myself is being an honest and hardworking alderman. And I can tell you that the people in my ward, if this was going on, it wouldn't go on for 24 years, sir. Someone would definitely call the news media, the inspector general, or anyone. So this is a guy that might be frustrated because he didn't get exactly what he wanted. I don't recall, but.
Well, he wanted, he said that you folks sort of said they've got these cars over there, they're getting citations, so you should go out and get a lot.
Well,
He said you and your guys told him to go out and get a lot.
Sir,
Now, you've seen that in the affidavit,
I
right?
saw that,
And he went out and bought a lot for $75,000, and then he couldn't get a driveway cut to go into the lot, which he said made it kind of worthless.
Well,
Is
first
that
of
right?
all, let me answer the question, first.
This is in the affidavit,
If you park-
folks.
If you park cars on the street, I don't know with the cars that you park, but people call our office and they complain, they say, there's a car here, there's a car there. That I know happens a lot in the phone calls.
So what happens, Streets and Sands goes out there and,
Yes, sir. And then somebody can also call 311. They don't have to call my office directly.
he said a lot of these cars weren't even his customers or his
Well,
cars or
apparently,
anything.
the cars one that I recall, they were his customers. They could park them.
Okay. And what'd you tell him to do about
You have to
that?
move the cars.
Move the
Can't put
cars.
them on the street.
Did you tell him to go out and buy a parking
I
lot?
don't recall ever telling him to buy a parking lot, buy a lot.
You don't recall him
He might
coming
have
to
said-
you?
He might have said, that lot is for sale, buy it. I don't recall telling him that he had to buy anything, sir.
And do you recall him saying, I bought this lot and now I need a cut so that there's a driveway going into the lot?
I don't
Because he'd need
recall that
he'd need a permit for
I
that,
don't
right?
recall that
He would need the city to give him approval to do that,
You
right?
had to apply for a driveway permit.
Right. And you could help with that, couldn't you?
If the community, the people that I represent, normally I go and ask questions to the voters.
Yeah.
Do you have a problem? But I recall that we used to get a lot of complaints from people walking up and down Fuller on Diversity because.
From this place, you don't remember the name so much, Jack Wilkins, but you do remember J&W Auto
Yes, sir.
Service
I remember.
at 4956 West Diversity.
Yes, sir.
That, you remember the address
I don't remember
in
the exact
Chicago.
name, but I remember there's a business there.
Yeah, okay.
Okay?
And you were getting a lot of complaints about
Yes,
that.
sir. Yes, sir.
And you were going over personally
I
to
didn't
talk
go
to
all
the
the
guy.
time. I went there once, maybe.
Did you have a guy named Alonzo who
I
worked?
don't
You
even.
said Alonzo came.
I don't have an Alonso that ever worked for me. That's
You
what
think,
that's
so you think Alonzo might have been somebody else who
I
just
don't know Alonzo
used an
was.
alias or
I
something?
don't
You ever
know.
tell you guys to use an alias?
No,
Yeah.
sir.
You know.
No, sir.
You did.
I never had an Alonso working for me to this day.
You never ever said to anybody, look, if you want that taken care of, you want that citation, you want to reduce those, you ought to buy some tickets to my
So that's
fundraiser.
not my style of doing business.
But
I don't
sometimes
believe in
you-
that.
but
So
you
I
will
would
ask-
never- I would never ask anyone to give me, they had to buy tickets for anything that we do. That's not my.
You wouldn't have, well,
I've never done that.
who sells the tickets to your fundraisers? You got to get somebody to buy them.
We mail them, and sometimes I'll go visit some of the people,
But sometimes you will ask them to
if they want to buy a ticket.
If they want to buy a ticket.
I don't tell anybody they have to buy anything.
say, if you want to, here's a ticket, it costs $100. You'll do that. You don't think in Chicago there's ever the notion there's a quid pro quo? If you want to get hassled less,
No, sir, not from my part. because
not for you,
I don't
but
do
have
that.
you ever heard of other people doing that in Chicago, aldermen? Isn't that known as the Chicago way?
I don't know about other people, but that's not my Chicago way.
Okay. Let's go on to some other topics. Look, you're an
We
ex-Marine.
got-
You are an ex-Marine.
We don't have to be-
I'm going to let you answer. No, but I got to give people some framework here.
Yeah, but-
You were an ex-Marine,
Yes, sir.
and I'm saying this is a compliment, because Marines perform.
You got it.
We don't talk about how many resources, how much time. You send out the Marines and they come back and they've done something. Good, right?
Right.
That's a compliment to you. Now, I'm just saying that now, and you were a Marine for 6 years, okay? Now, use that same tough questioning to yourself. Have you performed in making the schools better in your
Yes,
ward?
I've been instrumental in changing principals at high schools. I've been instrumental in changing some principals at grammar school. But it is awful hard to change people where they have tendency and contracts that, but I've done that. Kelvin Park High School, we're on our way to changing that school completely. That school is now at 7th and 8th grade receiving, plus 9 to 12. We just spent $9 million to make sure that we put the underclass in one part. We wanted to get together. We had a brand new principal who is going to change things around. She's going to hire, she's been told, the best teacher she possibly can hire. But it's not easy to get people that don't perform. And we try that, and it isn't easy. So when that happens, then everybody says, that we're not doing our job, and that I'm not doing my job.
So you're trying to improve.
Yes, sir, we're trying to improve, and we're going to continue to try to
Are
improve.
there any select enrollment schools in your ward?
I don't have any select.
Millie says no.
We're trying, I'm doing my best to bring one.
You are.
I don't have a charter school in my ward either at the present time.
Would you like to have a charter school?
If I could find a charter school that could keep 700 to 800 kids in my community, I go first to my community and present the idea, and if they're in favor of it, then we're going to have
I
a
mean,
charter
if they,
school.
when you say keep, if they can attract 700 or 800 kids
Not
who
to
want to
bus
go.
out of the neighborhood, to stay
In that neighborhood.
Because when a
Okay.
child gets put on a bus,
Okay.
we lost total control.
Well, you know, you've heard of UNO, right?
Yes, sir.
They've had some problems with some of their leadership, but they generally are known as people who perform. They improve the quality,
That's correct.
opportunities, choices. Would you like UNO to come in
It
and
could
give you a
be-
charter
It
school?
could be in Transit. I got a school that just across the street on the other side of Belmont in Transit. It's a very beautiful building, and I hear great things
So what
about
are you
it.
doing? Why don't you go over there, talk to those
Well,
folks,
right
talk to
now,
the mayor and
we
get
don't
it done?
have- We don't, it's not easy that you say this, we don't have a building right now, at the present time in my ward, big enough to do this.
You don't?
No, so most of my, almost.
Well, don't you have some high schools there?
We have high schools, we have.
Maybe if it's high school, it's not performing, close that down, and then you got a building,
That's
and bring in a charter
That's
school.
going to be a topic that I've been discussing around Emmanuel.
Yeah.
And we're going to continue to discuss it and see if it doesn't happen, then we're going to change.
Maybe you should get it done before April 7th, which is when the election
Well, I wish
is.
we could do that, but that's.
You don't
not
think
time
you
to
can,
do it.
yeah.
Nobody can do that. And if anybody tells you they're going to do that, they're lying to you.
So are you
But I will
supporting
work.
Rom? Are you supporting Rom?
I am, in this election, right now, I decided not to take any side, any stance with anybody for the mayorship. In the 31st ward, crime dropped by 27%.
It's from when to when?
From the first of the year to the end of the year. That's the
This
way
last year?
Yes, sir. But crime is all over the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago. In some areas it's higher than others, but we have crime. My community isn't any different than the rest of them, but we do have problems, and I admit it. And 27% is a great start, but it isn't what I want to get to. I want to eliminate crime to the lowest possible denominator we can, and we're going to continue to fight. I do anti-violence march every year. I bring 800 people to my anti-violence march. You know something, Mr. Berkowitz? I've never seen Millie Santiago at one of those marches. And when the school has a problem, where we have meetings and the principal and the teacher, we get together and discuss, I have never seen Millie Santiago at one of those meetings. And she claims she's attended it because she was a reporter. Well, maybe she was a reporter and she attended it because she was getting paid to cover that meeting. But I have not seen her.
Thank you so much. Alderman Ray Suarez, Vice Mayor, and I truly appreciate it. Folks, you should know this. Here's an incumbent who showed up. There aren't many who will do it, and so he subjected himself to tough questioning, and we'll let the voters decide. I just want to be tough. I hope I was tough on Millie, tough on you. I don't have a horse in this race.
No, I know that.